Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply. Read all warnings before using GLP-1s. Side effects may include a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Do not use GLP-1s if you or your family have a history of thyroid cancer.
If you've struggled for years to lose weight and have given up hope, did you know you can now access GLP-1 prescription medications at trylifemd.com? We're now offering eligible patients online access to GLP-1s, the breakthrough prescription medication that can help you lose body fat and weight. Listen to what people are saying.
It's fun to put on jeans that you couldn't get into 6 months ago.
Every morning, I look forward to getting on the scale.
For anybody who's struggling with their weight, it's a godsend.
And here's the best part. Your insurance may cover 100% of the cost of your medication. So go to trylifemd.com to have your eligibility checked right now. Get started today at trylifemd.com. That's trylifemd.com.
Yeah. Skibbity-doo. Skibbity-dap-tap-tap. Bebop-bop-bop. Hello and welcome, everyone, to another episode of the After Buzz podcast. My name is Nico Adjemian, your host of the After Buzz, and of course, with me is the man, the myth, the legend, Buzz Adams.
Oh, thank you. Very enthusiastic. I didn't need that. Okay, that's overdoing it a little bit.
Okay, well, you know what? I want to give you the due you deserve.
Okie doke.
It is a Thursday. How are you feeling?
Feeling great.
Yeah?
It's a 3-day weekend.
How did you think today's show went?
Good. The shows have been good all week long, I think.
We talked to Paul.
Had a lot of guests. We had Paul Scheer.
Mm-hmm. Sure or Sheer?
Scheer. And you called him Rob.
Oh, my God. But I was thinking of Rob Hubel.
Was he in the league?
He was in the Human Giant.
Oh,
and
the Human Giant.
That's the question I asked him when I called him Rob was, hey, Rob, do you still talk to the guys from Human Giant?
Like Aziz Ansari?
And Rob Hubel. And that's where I fucked up. God, I'm so mad at myself for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm probably...
we interviewed Don McLean, the guy who did American Pie earlier this week. I didn't call him John McClane.
I know. Imagine.
I prepare for interviews.
It had nothing to do with that. It was just... the fact that I was excited to talk to him about a thing, and I switched the thing. It has nothing to do with preparation. You think that had to do with preparation, really?
I think everything has to do with preparation.
It's not about that. It's about me in my head being able to say the words I want to next. And I had the question in my head for days. I've wanted to ask Paul Scheer whether he's still hung out with the guys from Human Giant.
All right.
What else is going on in your life?
In my life?
Yeah.
Not much changes from day to day.
No? You wake up.
Been seeing a lot of movies.
You go to work.
I go to work.
You go back home. You pick up your daughter. You
Some
guys
days.
watch movies.
They got early release this Friday.
Oh, they do for Memorial Day?
I don't know if it's the entire school district or just my kid's school, but they get out at noon on Friday.
And
could have something to do with Memorial Day weekend, I guess.
Do you have to pick her up? Or did she ask you to pick her up?
She did.
Does she not drive yet?
She's old enough. There's something about these kids these days. I know so many kids who, especially like in my own family, who don't see any rush to drive.
Wait, like your brother's kids?
I don't know. But my daughter's older brother just never got around to getting a driver.
Too?
But he lived in New York.
Oh, okay. That's actually something very common. You'll see people from who are born and raised there in their 50s.
Never got a car.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, when you turned 15 and a half, that was when you could get your learner's permit and start driving.
It was a priority, number one.
You didn't let the sun set. And then it was you'd had 6 months to try and figure out how to get a car. So relative's going to give you an old one. I got a beat up 72 Datsun that would not turn left. The steering column was damaged in a way that it wouldn't make a left turn.
So you would have to take multiple right turns?
Yep. So if I wanted to turn left, I had to take 1, 2, four right turns to get anywhere. Also,
it's funny that it took you a while to.
It had been a
think
car
of square.
It had been a car that my mom and dad owned, and then they gave it to my dad's brother, and he painted it.
Oh.
With a paintbrush.
Oh.
He didn't have it professionally done. He didn't even do it. He painted the car with a paintbrush. And that was my first car.
Now, it turned left for him?
No, sometime that he had it was when it lost the ability.
To turn left, like Zoolander. All right, well, on today's episode of the After Buzz, I have some interesting topics I wanted to bring up, and it comes from something you mentioned this week in one of our news stories, or maybe it was Joanna for Entertainment News, but Taylor Swift has been approached by Marvel, supposedly, and they're wondering if she wanted a bigger role in the MCU, because there were reports that she might be Dazzler in the upcoming Wolverine and Deadpool movie. So some speculation was that she was maybe asked to be the Blonde Phantom.
Not familiar with the Blonde Phantom.
Good, because that's what we're going to get into today.
Is that the ghost of Marilyn Monroe?
You know, it almost... like the drawing, yeah. It almost looks like it could have been based on her. She has no superpowers. She is a masked crime fighter.
So like Batman.
Like Batman, but she wears a dress, like a silk dress, and she carries a gun.
Okay.
Oh, did you see it? Yeah.
I found some pictures. I love the superheroes who they want to keep their identity secret, so they just wear a mask that doesn't cover up anything.
The tiniest of, like, just basically that's eyeshadow.
I mean, the number one offender here is the biggest one. Superman. He just wears glasses, as if you don't recognize your friends if they show up wearing glasses.
Haven't you heard the theory, or that part of his Kryptonian physiology messes with people's minds? Like when you look at him, he can make it seem like he doesn't look like Superman. I don't know. That's the best explanation I think they've come up with. So
why bother wearing the glasses then, if that's the case?
All right, so here's the backstory to the Blonde Phantom. Are you ready, Buzz?
Yeah.
Louise Grant is a secretary at the Mark Mason Detective Agency.
You know how I can tell that this character was probably thought up in the 40s or 50s?
Oh, so, yeah.
Because her name's Louise.
I thought you were going to say because her main backstory is as a secretary.
Well, it was one of two jobs that women could have back then.
Nurse?
Or secretary or school teacher.
Yeah. Okay. Louise Grant is a secretary at the... Oh, and I forgot to say,
Did she have superhuman typing abilities?
All these characters are from the golden age of comic books, which is like 1920s to early 1940. Even, yeah. Maybe the 1940s and stuff.
So before the Marvel era, before the Silver Age.
Before the Silver Age, before Marvel, before DC. So this would be timely comics, all American comics, quietly comics. There was like several different comic books.
Quietly?
Yeah. I think it was the name of the guy. Louise Grant is a secretary at the Mark Mason Detective Agency and secretly in love with her boss.
Because of course.
When he is on a case, Louise takes off her glasses and lets her hair down, becoming the glamorous masked hero, rescuing him from danger in a floor-length evening gown. In a gender reverse to the famous Superman-Lois Lane dynamic, Mark is in love with the Blonde Phantom and has no interest in the mousy secretary back at his office.
Gee willikers, Louise, why can't you be more like the Blonde Phantom? Honestly, Clark, why can't you be more like Superman?
This is actually a pretty ahead of its time comic book where the main character, a woman, has to save the dude, the detective.
Can I tell you, I don't consider this to be a major character because I read comic books my entire childhood and I'd never heard of the Blonde Phantom
You
before.
only read Silver Age comic books. A lot of these were either discontinued or changed versions of
Do you know
themselves.
what- do you know
for
what-
example, there was a Daredevil from the Golden Age that has nothing to do with the Daredevil that was eventually.
He's not blind or anything?
Nope.
Okay.
Completely different.
See, I think you think I only got comic books that were currently on the magazine rack.
I'm sure you saw Sergeant Rock or something, or
I used to get them from pawn shops, garage sales, and there was a comic book store that I swear to God, the owner proprietor had to have been the guy that they based the Simpson character on, comic book guy. Oh my God, down to the minutest detail. I can still see his gut sticking out from under his shirt, which always had a mustard stain on it. Somebody must have walked in to the comic book store in Okmulgee, Oklahoma in the 70s or 80s and seen this guy and said, I'm going to make a cartoon character.
I've got a job for you.
Swear to God, it had to have been.
Well, so you're saying that you actually might have come across some of these characters because... Oh, also, they didn't have standalones back then. So these would be part of All-Star Comics #1.
I would occasionally, especially at some of the garage sales or yard sales, I would find some of these comic books from the... I don't know about the 40s, but from the 50s for sure. And a lot of them were horror-based comics.
The pulps.
I don't know if that's what they were called, but they were more like creepy tales or eerie stories.
So that's why you might not have come across these, because they probably weren't. They didn't have their own series by the time even the 40s came around. They didn't have their own series, or 40s and 50s.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm completely unfamiliar with the Blonde Phantom.
Yes, that's why I'm bringing it up. And today's topic is comic book characters you're unfamiliar with because we've forgotten about them. Does that sound interesting?
Wow. Okay, sure.
Number 1, the Masked Raider.
No, can't say that I know that one.
The original character went by the name of Jim Gardley and appeared in comic books during the 30s. I'm trying to find
this is going to be a great topic.
Shut the fuck. Okay, I'm just trying to get like
the bearings.
Well, I'm just trying to. Yeah.
I mean, give me something that somebody. You mentioned Sergeant Rock.
Jim Gardley was a cattle. I'm trying to get the backstory. You asked.
Who cares about a backstory of a character nobody's ever heard of?
All of these are characters you never heard of.
Okay.
Not one of these will be ones that you've heard of before. The whole point of this is the comic book characters we have all forgotten about.
Oh. That does nothing to raise my interest.
Well, sorry, you're gonna have to fake it.
All right.
like I'm like my topic is the one thing that has to be like otherwise I'm dead. Like just put some effort into it.
All right, tell me all about the Masked Raider.
Jim Gardley was a cattle rancher in Arizona who in 1849 was falsely accused of cattle rustling, forcing him to go on the run. He took up the mantle of the Masked Raider to clear his name.
Yeah, way to do away with those rumors that you're a thief. Wear a mask and call yourself a raider.
See, this is a good topic. Fuck you. Under undisclosed circumstances, Gardley found the Eternity Mask, a fragment of the cosmic entity, Eternity, which grants those who wear it powers equal to those who they face. What if you're
whatever the
fighting a child?
Is, you get the strength of a 5-year-old. If you're doing your laundry, you become an expert folder.
Number 2, Karzar, or David Rand. Born in South Africa in 1918, 3-year-old David Rand accompanied his British parents, John and Constance, on a flight to Cairo to visit his grandfather.
Okay.
Unfortunately, their plane crashed in the Congo jungle. Constance died in the crash, and John was driven mad, living in the jungle with his father, isolated from the local tribes.
Wait, who was driven mad, the dad or the kid?
The dad.
Okay.
David grew under the jungle's hardships into an unusually powerful youth.
Gee, I wonder if anybody'd ever read Tarzan when they invented Karzan.
And developed strong empathy with wildlife.
All right, that I would have sued immediately if I was connected to the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate in any way, shape, or form. In fact, even if I wasn't, I might have just sued based on principle. This is clearly a Tarzan ripoff, right?
Notably rescuing Czar the lion from quicksand.
And he became his friend for life? Just like Nikima the chimp?
Or the
Mangani?
Dad, I didn't know you were...
Unk Mangani, unk.
What, Conan?
No, this is Tarzan.
Tarzan, yeah. Anyways, do you think that's fun? Interesting?
That is
Karzar!
Karzar, Tarzan, same origin
King
story.
of Fang and Claw.
Yeah, all right. Did he have superpowers?
No, just really strong.
Because Tarzan, I guess his only superpower was being white, and somehow that made him stronger than everybody else that lived in this country that they were all from.
Next up, number 3. Angel. Now,
from the X-Men, sure. Warren Worthington III. See,
nope.
If you're talking my language, if you're talking about a character I know, like Angel.
We're not talking about characters you know.
Oh.
That's not the point of this.
All right, well, what did Angel do?
Now, I actually want you to Google Angel, and Google his full name, Thomas Holloway. He looks like Batman with 2 guns. Yeah, pick that picture that's to the left. Put to the left. I think the comedian was supposed to be modeled after him.
Well, this picture has him in front of a swastika, almost like.
Well, no, the bullet holes are in the swastika,
Yeah,
and
but
he's shooting guns.
Okay.
Doesn't he look badass though?
No.
You don't think that the one you just clicked? That's not him. Yeah, that's a badass picture.
I guess. I mean, it doesn't look like it's from the 30s. Here's one. Yeah, it looks a lot cornier from the original.
He looks like Superman.
Yeah, kind of.
A costume.
I think there's a look at this. Look who is. Look who the
Red
villain is.
Skull.
It's a Red Skull. The Angel and the House of Horror. I think there was a reason that we don't remember a lot of these. They might not have been great.
Dude, there were thousands of characters that came out during this time. I wouldn't expect anybody to really know all of them. And don't you notice they're all modeled after each other?
Kind of cookie cutter, right?
Yeah, but that comes from the 30s. Like, I think
what Marvel really changed is Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and these others, Jack Kirby, was that they made characters that weren't just carbon copies of existing superheroes. You talked about like a teenager who had teenage problems, like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they definitely younged it down. But like the human...
Not only that, but also it was just like people had real life problems. There was an entire story arc that went on for at least 5 years about Tony Stark's alcoholism.
That actually didn't even come till
that was
later.
70s,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a different
These
time.
all seem very generic, and it seems like...
Yeah, but it's easy to judge when you have the experience of those other comics. You have to put yourself... This is the golden age. There was nothing else. These were the progenitors, the models for everything that came after it. Just shut up.
Karzar.
A costume detective with no superpowers, the Angel is among the few such heroes to wear no mask, and in his golden age appearances makes no effort to conceal his identity as an independently wealthy Thomas Holloway, a former surgeon.
Okay. So he would show up on the scene and people would say, Are you Dr. Howe? Did I have an appointment with you?
Yes, it is I, Angel.
Call me Angel.
His mother died in childbirth. Consequently, he was brought up in the prison where his father was a warden. There he was instructed by a number of experts, as well as a number of the inmates, which gave him a unique insight into the underworld.
Is that the way it used to work in prison? If you were a warden and a single father, you just left your kid with the inmates? I mean, I'm not saying that isn't the case.
It also
might have been
a cool backstory.
Right.
Like, the guy who murdered, a bunch of people just taught me judo. Though he wore a costume like a superhero, he wore no mask. Okay. He later acquires the Cape of Mercury, which allows him to fly.
Yeah, even they realized it was kind of boring.
Well, he was already active by the time of the first Human Torch and Submariner adventures.
But those were 40s. Those were World War II era.
39. I'd say 39. But did you know the Human Torch was not a teenager? He was an adult when he first came out. There was no Fantastic Four.
Human Torch was an android, man.
The one from the
Golden Age?
he's
an android.
But
I'm sorry if I'm blowing your mind
You're
here,
blowing
but the
my mind,
original, like from the Invaders, Captain America had a team, him and, Human Torch and Submariner come to mind. He was an android. That was how he was able to set himself, be on fire.
Oh, the android Human Torch. But he looks the same. Like they would, his whole body is covered in flames.
From what I recall, though, that was his default. There was no
turning it
off and looking like
And
the
how can you be
Fantastic
a
Four.
Human Torch if you're an android torch?
False advertising. Same way they ripped off Tarzan and never paid the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate a red cent.
Karzar! I think they were kind of famous for ripping things off, though. Like Stan Lee and stuff.
Probably just
in general.
Yeah, in general. I mean,
the Destroyer. Have you heard of this guy?
I know a Thor adversary called the Destroyer.
I think they changed it
and then Drax the Destroyer also from Guardians of the Galaxy.
The Destroyer stood out from other wartime heroes in that he operated solely within occupied Europe.
I'd like to help you in Switzerland, but unfortunately, your country is neutral.
American journalist Keen Marlowe is captured for spying while reporting behind the lines in Nazi Germany. While imprisoned in a concentration camp, Marlowe is given a super soldier serum similar to Captain America's by fellow prisoner Professor Erich Schmidt, a German anti-Nazi scientist. Responding to the chemical, and without the beneficial Vita rays used to chemically stabilize Captain America's serum, Marlowe becomes a prime human specimen who escapes, dons a sleek dark costume with a skull motif and a skin-tight blue mask.
Wasn't the Red Skull in the Marvel movies that came out within the past two decades, wasn't his name Schmidt?
Oh, yeah, it was. Oh, yeah, that's a good question or point.
Yeah, I think that maybe they should have been thinking outside the box a little more back in the early days of comic books.
It's easy to say when you have all the other stuff to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
This is called ethnocentrism.
No, it's not.
You're right. I don't even know what it is.
Chronocentrism. Maybe.
Chronocentrism. Yeah, you're right. Number 4 or 5, wherever we're at. Miss America. You got to look her up.
Well, I'm afraid that search term would turn up a bunch of stuff that are not comic books.
So she was introduced in 1943 along with Blonde Phantom, Golden Girl, Namora, Sun Girl, and Venus. These were all the female comic book characters at the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She almost looks like Captain America's art.
Was this, what was the company?
Timely Comics. So Marvel, eventually.
Okay, yeah, so what Marvel was known as. She actually does kind of look like Taylor Swift, so.
Socially aware teenage heiress Madeline Joyce was born in Washington, D.C.
What does socially aware mean for the 1940s that women should be allowed to vote?
Right. Was born in Washington, D.C., and was the niece and ward of radio mogul James Bennett, who was sponsoring a Professor Lawson, a scientist claiming to have gotten superpowers through a device that had been struck by lightning.
Wow.
Joyce, secretly tampering with the contraption during a thunderstorm that night, herself gained the ability to fly and great strength after lightning similarly struck.
Is it interesting that before the atomic bomb, you got your powers mostly from electricity, and after the atomic bomb,
And
It
yeah,
was
from that.
radiation.
Or from some type of mystical
Gamma
object.
rays or radioactive spider, like the Hulk
Super serum.
was caught in a gamma ray explosion.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Stanley. Oh, no, that's the person. Blazing Skull.
Now, I have heard of Blazing Skull before. I
have.
don't know that I have ever owned or even read a Blazing Skull, but I am at least familiar with that
Okay.
character, and I'm not confusing him with Ghost Rider. Anybody who's going to say that.
It would look very similar, though.
But I can imagine they would.
Yeah, absolutely. Foreign correspondent Mark Todd, assigned by his newspaper to cover the Second Sino-Japanese War, is forced to take refuge in a cave during an artillery bombardment by the Japanese. There, he meets the Skullmen, a strange race of people with burning skulls for heads. They inform him he has been chosen by the forces of destiny to be the champion of freedom, and they begin his training, which grants him abilities like invulnerability to fire. Once his training is completed,
That's a good power to have if you have a blazing skull.
he returns home and, motivated by the horrors of Nazism, dons a uniform to fight crime. As time passes, he continues to master the Skullman's teachings.
So there's an entire race of people who just look like they have skulls or blazing skulls?
Burning skulls for
Burning
heads.
skulls for heads.
I mean, that must have been creative at the time.
Attaway Vision. By the way, boys, my name is the Blazing Skull, and that's skull, not scroll.
Come on. This is classic. Yeah, you got to admit. This
Put him
is-
on a motorcycle and he's Ghost Rider.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure they took like those exact stills to model Ghost Rider.
Yeah. Probably it's like, we could milk this one a little more, but let's make it cooler.
And
Put a motorcycle in there.
last but not least, Buzz, Thin Man.
There was a series of movies starring Myrna Loy called The Thin Man, and it was this guy, he was a detective, and his wife, and they had a little dog named Asta, and these were a popular movie series in the 30s and 40s. The Thin Man. I wonder if it's the same thing.
No, dumber. Even dumber than that.
Had you ever heard of the movies, The Thin Man?
Yes.
The Thin Man.
I do
movies.
believe
William Powell and Myrna Loy
they.
played a married couple. Their cute little dog Asta.
Oh, they were famous, right? The Thin Man.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they were a popular movie series, way before my time.
Okay, so this.
Slender Man.
Right. Thin Man, published first in August of 1940.
He has the ability to compress his body so thinly that he can slip under any door.
I mean,
Am I close?
don't get ahead of me. In his origin story, explorer Bruce Dixon climbs Mount Calpurnia in Tibet and finds the lost city of KLAQ, where everyone can turn themselves super thin. He learns their secrets and leaves the valley to fight crime in America with Olala, a pretty KLAQian girl, at his side. He just stole a native?
Well, you don't know that. Maybe she went willingly.
Using his special skill.
Also, the idea of going into the Himalaya mountains and acquiring special skills.
That's another one.
That's Doctor Strange. That's Iron Fist.
That's
There's so many other ones.
Pretty classic.
Yeah.
Using his special skill, he can slip under doors and surprise criminals.
Now I've got you. How are you going to fight someone who is only a couple of microns thick? I mean, once you're in there, it seems like he'd be pretty easy to beat in a fight, though.
What about
What happened to all
elongated
his,
man?
What happened to all his muscle mass?
Right.
You would have just blown away?
Also, talk about not being too good in the sack.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it.
What did you say? You said another. You brought up elongated man.
Oh, yeah. Elongated man.
Is there a connection?
He appeared right after this guy did.
So Thin Man was first, and then Elongated
Thin Man was one of the first stretching superheroes, predating Plastic Man.
Rubber Man, Mr. Fantastic.
By a year, Elongated Man by 20 years.
All right. These sound like I did not miss a lot.
But
probably somebody's really into like these old
detective agencies. That's where a lot of them started too. That's another pretty common origin story.
I work at a detective agency, and I found the secret Cape of Cthulhu.
Yeah, there's got to be some major fans. But wasn't it a nice stroll down memory lane? We're not staying here. We're going back to the future. But it was a nice stroll.
Somebody's got to stop Marvel before they turn all these characters into movie properties.
Well,
I mean, for their own good.
I think that's what they want to do, is they want to go to these other characters.
Why has nobody made a Doc Savage movie
That would be
in
awesome.
50 years?
Yeah, Doc Savage would be great.
Yeah, Doc Savage was a great character. He had an entire crew of compatriots, and he was an early, like almost... I want to say Superman, but not like the character Superman. He had extraordinary strength and endurance and everything,
Right.
and I forgot how he got his power, but these were popular books, and they made a bunch of movies, and there hasn't been with all the stuff that they brought to the screen. Why hasn't anybody done a Doc Savage movie?
And you know, probably because
The Man of Bronze.
Probably
right?
because he, it's too much of an Indiana Jones thing. I mean, he's an explorer. He's like an adventurer, warrior, detective.
The Man of Bronze.
Oh, did he get powers?
Yeah, I think he might be in some kind of like super soldier serum situation. There was something that definitely made him superior in some way to most humans.
Oh, the Shadow, too. You know what? You're right. Doc Savage would be great. He's described as a mix of Sherlock Holmes, Tarzan, Craig Kennedy, and Abraham Lincoln.
Who's Craig Kennedy?
Fictional detective. Okay. So he's supposed to have Sherlock Holmes' deductive abilities, Tarzan's outstanding physical abilities.
God, I remember these book covers. And I can remember seeing these like in the school library. They had Doc Savage
and
books.
Abraham Lincoln's goodness. Doc Savage is described as manifesting Christliness.
Christliness?
Yeah. Doc's character and worldview is displayed in his oath, which goes as follows. Let me strive every moment of my life to make myself better and better, to the best of my ability, that all may profit by it.
Listen to this. Superman was inspired by Doc Savage.
Really?
Mm-hmm. His looks were inspired by Clark Gable and the world's greatest model.
Who's the world's greatest model?
It was me.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm not going to read the whole thing. He's not the world's first superhero, I wouldn't imagine. Oh, he doesn't have superpowers. I could have sworn that there... And also, Doc Savage is one of the characters in the Neil Gaiman books where they...
Really?
The ones... the Invisibles? There's a series... There's books by Neil Gaiman, the guy who wrote American Gods, that basically recast... They're recognizable that these characters are based on famous comic book characters, and one of them is Doc Savage, but there's also like it's kind of like how the Watchmen, you could tell.
Oh yeah.
Or The Boys.
Oh, yeah, they're analogs.
Yeah, they're analogs. And
he has an analog of Doc Savage.
Yeah.
I'm going to read more of Doc Savage. This should this would be a great. You know what? I bet they already do have it.
Look at that physique.
Look at that hair.
Yeah, we got to do something about that hair. All right.
Yeah. Is there any news for Doc Savage? Nope.
This article that I found, it seems like it's talking about. Here you go, from Screen Rant 2016. It's official. The world's first two superheroes coming to the big screen. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will be playing the legendary Doc Savage in an upcoming film from Shane Black, director of Iron Man 3.
Nope.
Boy, that did not happen. Instead, he did the stupid Black Adam, one of the worst comic book movies of all time. I mean, this thing truly was an embarrassing mess. Don't know if you saw Black Adam or not.
Doc Savage TV series in works at Sony Pictures Television with original film. Huh. That would be cool. All right, well, that's going to do it for today's episode of the AfterBuzz. Let us know. Do you have any favorite comic book characters that we just don't hear about anymore?
Tarzan.
Karzar.
It's
even that close to it.
It really is.
Let us know. You can email me at nico@klaq.com or buzz@klaq.com. Why don't you give the neckline number?
Sure, you can leave a message anytime on our 24-hour neckline. That number is 844-805-NECK, 844-805-6325. If you have a comment about this podcast, you can leave it there or anything you want to talk about.
All right, folks. We'll talk to you next time.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.